Hello everybody, it's Guru here, and in this particular video I want to analyze how powerful Meliodas is, and by extension, give a rough idea about the power of the rest of the cast. So let me get right into this. Is Meliodas planetary? Well, I gotta say no on that one, chief. As of right now, I'm gonna say that Meliodas is continental, possibly multi-continental, but not planetary. That's not to say he can't be, but as of right now, we just have not seen him at his utmost power. Right now, he has the commandments of piety, selflessness, pacifism, repose, and patience. I would go further on into how strong these could possibly make him, and thus maybe making him planetary. However, that's kind of headcanon-y. It's very speculation based, and it really has no place in this video that's supposed to be as factual as possible. So first, we should probably just examine the feats of Meliodas from his weakest to strongest forms in the series thus far, and see where he really stands. In the beginning, we first see Meliodas slashing Twigo, basically creating this giant fucking cloud of dust, this explosion, the size of the hill that he's doing it on. This feat alone helps us gauge where to start as a basis, as we know this is his weakest form. So where is he right now? Well, it's very simple.
He's multiversal, simply throwing hands with Lord Twigo himself, the leader of the Twigocracy, puts Meliodas in an entirely different realm of power unquantifiable to even the likes of...
In all seriousness, this feat was done with his broken sword handle, and at the time it was implied that he used full counter. However, as you know, Meliodas' full counter only works on projectiles unless you're talking about revenge full counter, which is a completely different ballpark. Something even more impressive about this scan is where he basically cuts a small mountain in half using just a stick, and this feat alone puts him at mountain level. This was done with the power level of 3,370, and this is one of Meliodas' weakest forms besides him being dead. And it is integral for me to mention that power levels are a little wanky in 7 Deadly Sins. See, there's 3 bases of power levels. There's spirit, strength, and magic. Now, people usually embody one of these 3 primarily, however some have been shown to have a good split. Meliodas is primarily spirit at this point, however when he gets revived he is more along the lines of strength based. It is worth noting that depending on the power level, you may have different types of destructive capabilities. However, it is also proven time and time again in the series that power level does not equal just the capabilities of a person. Someone like Zeldris, who has a quote-unquote low power level compared to the people he is fighting, is significantly stronger than what his power level may entail. Same can be said about Marilyn. So don't just think just because someone is 10 times more in power level, they are 10 times more in destructive capabilities. It is more like how they're applied through abilities and strength. But anyways, let's go on to the next feat. One of the funniest feats in the series was when Meliodas and Ban were arm wrestling. Now they were doing it in this giant tower. It's a pretty good sized tower, but it was noted by the knights that, at the very least, they thought it was pretty impossible to break through it. And Ban and Meliodas in very weak forms did it casually, just fucking around. Now it is also worth noting that the knights are basically fodder, so take this with a grain of salt. However, it doesn't change the fact that that was a reinforced, durable tower that was pretty big, and that does kind of cement him around that mountain level area. However, if you don't want to take it, the feat before, he swung a fucking stick and split a mountain. I don't know where else to go with that. But anyways, let's move on to his Demon Mark form. Now, his Demon Mark form really varies, and it's dependent on how much he pulls out of the seal. See, he can be at a power level of 4,000 or a power level of 10,000 of this. I'm not really going to talk about his power level of 4,000 because that stage really doesn't make a difference. He isn't any much more stronger to note, and there isn't really that many feats to go off of. Now, when he was maxing out the Demon Seal at 10,000, he got vautorized by Galen, so again, not really much to pull from, but he is significantly more durable and he seemed confident enough to at least hold his own for a couple seconds. So I want to move on to his restored form, but before I do that, it's worth noting that during the fight with Galen and Escanor, Galen swings his sword so hard at Escanor that he basically cuts off the entirety of this giant mountain. He wasn't even aiming at the mountain. He was aiming at Escanor. So the aftershock alone did that. This puts him well over mountain level, and considering how big this mountain is, I really think that it's fair to put him in the mountain level range, for Galen at least. Now, as we know, Galen was at a power level of 40,000 at this point. He was amping himself up to take on Escanor, however, he saved that form for Meliodas. Meliodas was at a form of 32,500, so albeit weaker than Galen. When he uses the demon mark, he was at a power level of 56,000, so a feat like this is more than comparable for him. So with that in mind, this means that Meliodas is around at mountain range level. He can take out a sector of mountains. To further prove this point, just look at this panel of him tanking an attack by Gloxiana that made this huge explosion, and this explosion, in comparison to the little mountains down below, those are mountains, is much larger. He proceeded to come back from that explosion like it was nothing. Now, you can say that speaks more to his endurance rather than his destructive capabilities, but they are comparable. He proceeded to fuck up Gloxiana and Droll, no problem. He was just slapping both of them the entire time, cutting their arms off, nigh killing them at every moment. They were scared shitless. Despite all that, I still don't think he has a destructive capability at this point to destroy a country or a continent. However, it is worth noting, again, if he used full power at this point and wanted to cause mayhem, he would be able to destroy millions of homes for these innocent animals in this mountain range. So, I mean, again, I'm just cementing further that he is mountain range level. Meliodas using the demon mark was also fucking up Gloxiana and Droll at the same time, like they couldn't do anything. Every time one recovered, Meliodas would jump at the other one, beat the fuck out of him, and then go after the other one again. And it was back and forth, and he wasn't getting tired. Gloxiana and Droll were scared shitless, like they were like, what the fuck do we do? So every time Meliodas was just proving further that he is much stronger than both of them. Now that's important to note because Droll was able to control and create this thing, and beforehand Gloxiana did that attack that caused that giant explosion. Gloxiana and Meliodas were also flying back and forth at hyper speeds, easily past lightning considering he was able to dodge attacks in like much further arcs before from Gilthunder. So they were also at a very fast speed. I know that doesn't really speak to his, again, destructive capabilities, however, it is worth noting that he does scale to it. He did inevitably die when all the other commandments showed up. However, while I know it isn't super applicable, because it is kind of hacks-ish, when he took the beating from all of them as they gangbanged him, he was going to use Revengeful Counter and kill, like, all of them, dude. All the commandments. I know Esterosa stopped him, but Zeldris was terrified. Like, as soon as he used it, Zeldris was like, we're fucked. So, I mean, if Zeldris, someone who's fairly intelligent, who's on that more upmost type of power, especially later on in the series, was convinced that they were all fucked, I mean, that speaks a ton to his damage. Like, all 10 of them. Was it 10? I can't remember if it was exactly 10 at the time. But all of them, like, there's more than 6, that's for fucking sure. All of them were terrified, and Zeldris thought they were fucked, bro. Esterosa stopped him because Esterosa has the same type of ability. However, Zeldris, again, really smart dude, really strong dude, thought they were done for. So I think that alone kind of just proves that I'm not wanking Meliodas. He does have some fucking crazy feats. And the commandments, we know Galen was one of the weaker ones. Like, he was arguably the weakest one. So that kind of speaks to how Meliodas could go about, you know, destroying a continent or destroying a mountain range. If you think he can't do it, I mean, okay, then I guess Revengeful Counter could do it. But I think it's fair to note that wiping out all the commandments, that's a pretty fucking crazy feat. Still, despite this, he is not planetary. You do not need planetary force to kill all those commandments. Even if I gigawanked that and said, oh yeah, all their powers combined and the durability. Like, nah, it just wouldn't work. He just does not have that capability yet, because Esterosa wouldn't have been able to block the attack initially. I know he didn't get the full, like, swing off, but Esterosa wouldn't have been able to block it if they had that much force behind it. Now, this is where I make my main argument. This form, thus far, is the strongest we have seen Meliodas, unless a new chapter releases, like, tomorrow, and he is in, like, an absorbed commandment state. This form, Meliodas was in his assault mode, which has a power level of 142,000. This was basically enough for him to bully Escanor until Escanor, let me repeat that, Escanor reaches his one form. That form he gets for 1 minute that makes him invincible, makes him the strongest he can be, and makes him basically unbeatable. Now, Meliodas can be scaled to Escanor because he was not only swapping hands with him, but actually pressing him. Like, Escanor, I don't think would have won that if he didn't use the one form. Now, we know for a fact that a much weaker Escanor, away from High Noon, was able to instantaneously vaporize this giant fucking lake. So let's do some math on this, boys. Using the formula Q equals CM theta or CMX, you can calculate how much energy it would take for a feat like this to occur. Mind you, Escanor's heat isn't heat hacks. It's literal energy incarnate that increases throughout the day until noon. It is heat. That's all it is. It's not some kind of heat hacks that anything it touches burns up. I mean, Escanor was tanking it. He was flying in the air with it. So if it was like to immediately take all the moisture out of Esterosa's body, then that would be heat hacked, but it didn't do that. It just fucking exploded on him. Now let's get into the actual calculations of this. Cue the Death Note OST!
We know the specific heat capacity of water is 4.2 joules Celsius per kilogram, so that's our C in this case. A small lake has about 2,443,717 gallons in it, which converts to 9,261,687.43 kilograms of water in it. However, I would bet that this lake is much larger than a small lake which I use to get my kilograms per water. But we'll lowball the argument for argument's sake, and if we lowball the heat expended, which I did, to a room temperature of 80 degrees Celsius, which is much less than the heat required to vaporize a lake, that comes out to 3.1 trillion joules, or 741 tons of TNT lowballed!
Alright. For reference, that's basically a nuclear bomb, which I know isn't continental, but it for sure is country level, and like I said, I did lowball the calc significantly because A, it takes way more than 80 degrees Celsius to instantly vaporize a lake, and B, the lake is not by any means small. It was a good size, a medium to large size in comparison to all the other houses and plains around it. And Escanor did this casually in a much weaker form. So yeah, I think it's fair that Meliodas is definitely continental, possibly multi-continental with some medium wink, considering I lowballed the shit out of everything. Now unfortunately, even if this number was 10,000 times greater, it still wouldn't put Meliodas or Escanor at Planetary. I'm sure one person is saying right about now,
But Guru, you are fucking stupid. You say that you lowballed the entire calculation, so you must be obviously hiding the fact that Escanor and Meliodas can destroy plants. You stupid done virgin boy, eat penis and choke on frog.
Now, despite me lowballing the shit out of this feat, it doesn't take a genius to understand that instantly vaporizing a lake is not the same as
Busting a fucking planet.
So I opted to just prove that they are continental to multi-continental. Because even if I gigawank this feat, I cannot, in good faith, argue that they are planetary at this time in this story. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Meliodas is currently continental. Now, I would go into, theoretically, how strong he may become when he absorbs the commandments he has now, or hypothetically, all the commandments when he retains them, but then we get into headcanon territory and speculation, and I gotta do some fucking calc stacking, and it's just not a good look. It ruins the integrity of this video, and I just believe it's better to leave that to a different video that I may make later on. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, hit the sub button. It does help me out a lot. It gets the ball rolling on this new channel. If you'd like to see more scaling for 7 Deadly Sins or any show in particular, just leave a comment. I'll see if I know anything about it. If not, I'll read up on it. Love you all. This is Guru here. Peace out.
光見つけた空白の時間迷い込んだ宙づりの世界信じられる答え探し求めてよたださまよってよ夜の隙間逃げらないいつも見せたら暇もない受けた傷跡さえ勝手に静寂切り裂いてく誰も彼も出てはバイブ守るだけじゃ